In this Python tutorial, you're going to learn everything you should know to start programming. If you want to learn Python for web development, data science, or automation, this tutorial is the perfect place to start your journey. You don't need any prior knowledge of Python or any other programming language. You are going to learn everything from scratch. So let's start your programming journey together. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe because I upload new videos every week. Okay, before we start programming, let me give you an idea of what we can do with Python. Python is high-level general-purpose programming language. It's mostly known for data science, machine learning, web development, and creating AI applications. You can create really beautiful websites with Python and frameworks like Django and Flask. Python is heavily used at Google, Facebook, Dropbox, Spotify, and Instagram. Also, Python is heavily used at NASA and CERN for scientific computing. And one of the most famous AI, ChatGPT, was created using Python. So why are you learning Python? To become a web developer or data scientist, or maybe you want to create the next ChatGPT. So let me know in the comments why you are learning Python. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is to open python.org. This is the Python's official website, and we are going to head over to downloads, and on the right you can see Python 3.12. At this point, this is the latest version of Python, but in the future you might see a different version. Don't worry and download the latest version. And if it doesn't say the operating system that you're using on the top, on the left you can choose the correct operating system, such as Mac OS, Windows, and other platforms. Okay, after clicking you will start downloading the installer, and once it's done we open it. So for installing on Windows, we want to click on Use Admin Privilege and add Python to Pet. For Mac users, the installation is simpler. They just open the installer and they just click Next and agree to the terms, and they just press Install. Okay, now you have Python installed on your computer. Next, we have to install Code Editor. We use the Code Editor to write our code and execute it. The most popular editor for Python is PyCharm. PyCharm is very beginner friendly. It will highlight any errors that you make and it will help you to fix them. So to download it, we have to go to jetbrains.com, PyCharm, and we press download. On the top you have to choose your operating system, then scroll down and press download PyCharm Community Edition. Once it's downloaded, open the installer and press next until you see install. So for the Mac installation, once you open the installer, you just have to drag and drop the PyCharm to applications, and that'll be it. Okay, we have successfully installed PyCharm. So let's click Run PyCharm and let's click Finish. And we're greeted with Welcome to PyCharm. So click New Project. Over here we provide the name of the project, and then we can provide the location of the project. And once you're happy with the name and the location, you press Create. So here we have it, our project inside of PyCharm. In this window we can see our Python project, and at this point we have only one folder. Currently we don't have any Python files. A real Python application contains hundreds or even thousands Python files. So let's create our first Python file. Right click on Python project, then New, then we want to click Python file, and let's name it main. Click Enter. Let's close this window, and at this point we're all done. Now let's type your first code. Type print, parentheses, double quotes, and inside of these quotes let's type hello world. And on the right we have a green play button. This is how we run our code, and as you can see, small window popped up at the bottom. This is what we call terminal window. And you can see that we have our text that we just typed, hello world. So this was your first program. You just typed a command for Python to output the text that you have wrote. Alright, now let's talk about variables. In Python we use variables to store data. This is how you create a variable. First, you have to give a meaningful name. Then you have to put equal sign, and only after the equal sign you can provide your data. In this case, I want to create a string. In programming, a string is a data type used to represent a sequence of characters. A character is anything you can type on a keyboard, such as letters or numbers, or special characters. In Python, to represent the data that is a string, we can use either a single quote or a double quote. So anything I put inside of these quotes would be considered a string data type by Python. Let's imagine that we are creating a game, and in our game we need some sort of a greeting. I'm going to type hello player. Feel free to type anything you want. Okay, now we know how to create a variable for text, aka string. Now I need a variable to store my game score, and I will call it game score equals, let's say, 42. So a whole number is called integer in programming, or int for short. So we just have created our first int. Integer is a whole number, meaning it doesn't have any fractional or decimal parts. It can be positive or negative or zero. I think integer is a great fit for our game score, because I don't think it's practical to use decimal point when scoring something. And one more important thing, when we are naming our variables, if variable name contains more than one word, we separate them using underscore. Otherwise, if we have them connected, it's not really readable, as you can see. Okay, I think we also need a health variable for our player. Let's give our player 87.5 health. Okay, now we have created a variable called health with the float data type. Float is a short for floating point number. It's a data type used to represent a real number. So int is a whole number and float is a decimal point number. Okay, now I think we need a variable to check if our game is on or it's off. Let's call it game on. And let's type equals true. So this data type is called Boolean. Boolean represents only two possible values, true or false. Boolean is case sensitive. It always have to be uppercase, otherwise you will get an error. Boolean is really helpful. It helps you to identify if something is true or false. In this case, we are using it to check if our game is on or it's off. If it's true, it's on. If it's off, then it's equals to false. Okay, now let's use print with our data types. Let's print greeting, then let's print game score, health, and game on. Print statement is really helpful. We use it to check the current flow of our program. Okay, let's look at our syntax. We're telling Python, create variable name greeting and store string. Then we're creating game score and storing an integer. Then we have health, we store float, and we have game on with Boolean data type. Then we're telling Python to print our variables. Let's press run and see what happens. Okay, our terminal have opened and we can see that process finished with exit code 0. It means everything was successful. And we can see that everything have been printed in the same exact order. So this is how we create and use variables in Python. Okay, let me show you how to receive an input from a user. So in Python we have a function called input. It helps us to take a user input. It allows the user to enter data, and the entered data is returned as a string. Let me show you an example. Let's open the parentheses, then we have to put the quotation marks, and everything we put inside of the quotation mark will be prompted to our user as a text. So let's ask our user, what's your name? And let's run the program. Now we can see in our terminal the input function. At this point the Python is still running and it's waiting for us to type our answer. It's really easy to determine if the Python is running. You can just take a look at the top and you will see that instead of the play button we have the restart button and we have the stop button. And as the name suggests, the restart button will restart our program and the stop button will kill our program. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's type our value. I'm going to type Carl and press enter. So once I pressed the enter, input function have received my input and the program have ended because we have no other code after the input function. Okay, but what do we do with the user entry? How this is helpful? This function is really helpful because we can do something like this. We can assign a variable to the input function. So the name variable will hold the user entry. And now we can do something like this. Print hello and let's add our name. So what you're doing here is called string concatenation. We are connecting two strings together. Okay, let's run our program one more time. And once again, I'm going to enter Carl. And this time I got the response back, hello Carl. So what just happened? We told Python to use the input function and ask us a question. Then we told Python to assign the received input to a variable called name. And then we told Python to use print function and to concat hello with the name. So this is how we use the input function with Python. We have learned that in Python we have four main types of data is int, float, bool, and string. And there are times that you want to convert the value of the variable from one type to another. Let me show you. So we are going to use our input function, but first let's create a variable called birthday year equals input, and let's ask the user, enter your birth year. Now let's write the code to calculate the age of the user. Create a variable called age equals to this year 2024 minus the birth year. Now let's print the age in the terminal. Let's run the program and see what happens. So my birth year is 1998 and let's see what happens when I press enter. Okay, good. This is our first error. In programming, it's really important to know how to read the error. So let's see, the first line shows the exact location of our Python file. Then it shows that the error is happening because of line 2. And it shows the exact code. And underneath that we have type error, unsupported operand types. And we can see int and string. So the type error is telling us that we are trying to subtract integer from a string. Basically, we're trying to tell Python to subtract a number from a text. So why does that happen? When we use the input function and when we enter any specific text or a number, it always returns as a string. So when I typed 1998, it didn't save it as an integer. It saved as a string. It saved as a text file. So for this exact situation, we have the int function. If we pass the birth year variable to int function, it will turn the string to an integer. Let's type int in front of our birth year. Then open and close parenthesis, indicating that the birth year is inside of the int function. And let's run the program and let's do the same thing. So I'll type 1998 and we have our result 26. There is another really helpful function, it's called type. Let's add type inside of print and let's open and close the parentheses with the age inside of it. And I will run the program and do the same exact thing. And when I press the enter, we can see class int. So the type function is really helpful because anytime we're confused what type is our variable, we can use the print and type function together to show us what type is our variable. In this case, it indicates that the age is type int. Okay, so now we know that we have int function, but also we have a float function. It works the same, it converts a data to a float. Then we have the bool function and we have a string function. These four are not the only data types in Python, but these four types are essential for expressing and manipulating a wide range of data in Python programming. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you a bunch of cool things that we can do with strings. So let's start by creating a variable called hello, and let's make the variable hello equal to hello world string. Okay, now that we have our string, how do we use a method, and what is a method? Well, method is something that starts with the dot operator. We have some name, in this case it's going to be upper, and at the end we have open and close parentheses. Now I just want to show what these methods do. So let's say hello world dot upper open and close parentheses. This is a method that we can only use on strings. So because our hello world is a string, we can use the dot upper method on it. I think you can guess what this method does. So it turns the entire string to upper cases. And if we print our hello variable and press start, we can see that all the letters are uppercase now. Also, I don't have to use it this way, I can just declare it after the hello, and we will get the same result. There is another useful method for string, it's called lower. I think you can guess what this one does. It makes the entire string lowercase. These are really useful when you get a user input and you want to validate and check. There are a few other methods, one of them is capitalize. It simply capitalizes the first letter of the entire string. Next we have this method called count. So what count does, it counts the specific string inside of another string. So let's say we put double L's as a string, it will look inside of our hello variable and see how many double L's we have inside of that string. So in this case we only have one double L's inside of the word hello. Now let's check only for one L. And as you can see we have 3. Remember that these methods are really helpful for tasks such as comparing string without being case sensitive or presenting text in a consistent format. Now let's talk about arithmetic operators in Python. They are the same operators that we have in math. For example, we can add numbers, we can subtract them, we can multiply and so on. Let's create a variable x that equals 10 and variable y that equals 3. Then let's create a result that equals x plus y. And let's print the result. And when we run the program, we have 13. This is the addition operator. Also we have subtraction, then we have multiplication, and we have division. Technically in Python we have 2 types of division. Now let's call this one regular division. The single division sign returns floating number, and the second one is with 2 slashes. It returns a whole number. Also we have the exponent operator that is indicated with 2 asterisk signs. So in this case we're saying 10 to power of 3. And when we run this we get 1000. And finally we have the modulus operator, which is indicated by % sign. And this returns the remainder of the division of the 10 by 3. So in this case the result should be 1. So these are the arithmetic operators in Python. Okay, now we are going to move on to conditions and conditional operators. So a condition is simply something in Python that evaluates or compares 2 variables or data types together and returns either true or false value based on the result of the comparison. So as we already know, we have our true and false in Python, and the result of the comparison will be returned as a boolean. Okay, so let's look what these operators are. We have 2 equal signs. This is our equality operator. It basically checks if the left side is equal to the right side. Then we have not equal, which checks for inequality. Then we have less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to operator. So there are a few other random ones, but we're not going to cover them. These are the core operators that we are going to use most of the time. Okay, let me show you a condition. Let's create a variable called price, and the price is going to be equal 10. Then let's print price equal 10, and let's run it. And here we have it, a boolean true. Now let's do not equal, and when we run it, we get false. Okay, let's look at the other ones. Let's do less than, we get false because 10 is not less than 10. And then let's do greater than, and same thing, false. Now let's do less than or equal to, and we get true. We get true because we are asking, are they less than or equal to? In this case, they're equal to each other. Let's do greater than or equal to, and once again, we get true. Okay, there is another way that we can use these operators. We can combine them with the logical operators. Let's remove this and type greater than 15. And this is one of our logical operator. It's OR. So let's say price is greater than 15 or price is equal to 10. And let's run it and we get true. Because even though our price is not greater than 15, but our price is equal to 10, that's why we get true. So in this case, we're telling Python if one of these conditions is true, return true. Okay, let me show you another logical operator. Let's do price less than 15 and price less than or equal to 10. And when we run it, we get true. And in this case, we're telling Python both of these conditions have to be true to get a true result back. Otherwise, if one of them is correct, but the second one is false, we get false. Then we have the not operator. And when we apply the not, it will inverse the false to true and true to false. And when we run the program, we get true. Okay, let's talk about if statement in Python. We use if statements to make decisions in our program. For example, let's declare a variable called user and make it equal to input with the message enter your name. Let's imagine that we are creating a program for giving access to our users. Let's say I want to give access to user with name Carl. So to check the username, we are going to use if statement. We type if user equal Carl. And at the end of each if statement, we have to put colon. And look what happens when I press enter. My cursor is automatically indented. And this represents a block of code. So the code that I write over here will be executed if our statement is true. Otherwise, it's not going to be executed. So let me show you. Print welcome back plus user. Okay, now let's run the program and I'm going to write Carl. And because our if statement is true, we get a message back saying welcome back Carl. Now let's try the same thing, but let's type a different name. So let's type Mark. And because our user is not equal to Carl, our if statement check returns false and Python doesn't run the print statement. Okay, now let's say we want to return a message saying that the user doesn't exist. Similar as when you put the password and it says password is incorrect. To do that, we are going to use else statement. The else statement is simpler than the if statement. Basically, we are telling Python, if our if statement is not true, run the else statement. Let's not forget the colon, and let's print user doesn't exist. And when I run and type Mark, I get user doesn't exist. So this time Python checked if user equals Carl and it received false. Then because we have the else statement, it printed user doesn't exist. Okay, now let's say we want to check multiple users. To do that, we use elif statement. The elif statement can be used as many times as we want, but it must come up after if statement and before else statement. So basically we start with if statement. We can only have one if statement. Then we can use as many elif statements as we want. And at the end we can have only one else statement. So the elif works the same way as the if statement. And I can type user equals Mark. And once again print welcome back. plus user. Okay, now let's run the program and see what happens. So I'm going to enter Mark and I get back, welcome back Mark. So this time Python checked the first if statement and it was false. Then it checked the elif statement, and because it was true, we never reached the else statement. And we got back welcome Mark. So this is how we use if statement to make decisions in our programs. I want to congratulate you because you have reached to the point where I believe you can start writing a code on your own. And that's why I have created a small exercise. So this is your instructions on what the program should do. Your task is to create a simple age checker for roller coaster ride. The program should ask the user to enter their age. Based on their age, provide different messages. If the user is between 18 and 45 years old, inclusive, print enjoy ride. If the user is under 18 years old, print you're too young. If the user is over 45 years old, print you're too old. Okay, now you can pause this video and take on this exercise. Or if you think this is a little bit confusing, you can wait and I will show you hints how to write the code. So these are the hints. I strongly believe that you have the capability to complete this exercise. So pause the video now and good luck with this exercise. Okay, I hope you were successful with this exercise. So now let me show you my version of completing this exercise. Okay, first I will use print statement and I will tell my users to get access to roller coaster ride. Then I will create a variable called user age equals input and enter your age. Then we want to convert the user age to integer because as we know the input function returns a string. So we declare user age equals int, then inside of the parentheses user age. So now our user age is an integer. And now I can use the if statement. So I'm going to check if user age is bigger or equal to 18. With this condition we are checking if the user is 18 or older. But also we have to check if the user is not older than 45. So we are going to use and user age less than or equal to 45. And as always colon at the end. Okay, now this if statement fits our requirements, so we can print enjoy the ride. Okay, then in case of this if statement is false, I'm going to create elif statement, user age less than 18. And we are going to print you're too young. And same thing for elif, user age bigger than 45, print you're too old. Okay, let's quickly run the program. Let's put 35, enjoy the ride. Now let's check what happens if we're younger than 18. Let's put 11, you're too young. And now let's check what happens if we're older than 45. Let's put 65, you're too old. Okay, I hope you had fun with this exercise and you're not confused how everything works. If your version doesn't look like mine, it doesn't matter. As long as we have the same answer, it works. And if you're wondering, my version is not the best way of doing it. It's just easier to understand for beginners. Okay, now let's talk about while loops. In Python, we use while loops to repeat a block of code multiple times. For example, imagine you want to print numbers from 1 to 5. One way of doing this is just to code like this. Print 1, print 2, print 3, and so on. But this is not really practical. What if you want to print numbers up to 1 million? You would have need to create 1 million lines of print statement. And this is where the while loops comes to rescue. Let's create a variable called count equals 1. Then on a new line type while count is less than or equal to 5 and colon at the end. And when I press enter, it's automatically indented. So everything we write is going to be inside of that while loop. And let's print count, then count equals count plus 1. Let's run the program, and we have all the numbers from 1 to 5. Let's change the 5 to 100 and see if the while loop works the same. And yes, it works the same. We have all the numbers from 1 to 100. So how does it work? The first thing that happens when we run this program, Python is creating the variable called count equals 1. Then we are telling Python, while count is less than or equal to 100, run line 4 and 6. So basically, until our while loop is equal to true, we will run continuously the same loop over and over again. But in this case, we're printing the count, then we're adding 1 to the count. And when the count reaches 100, our while loop is equal to false. That's why we stop at 100. Okay, let me add to this code so we can have a better understanding. Let's create user input variable equals input. And for the string, enter exit to end. Then let's use if statement. If user input dot lower. If you remember, this is one of the methods that we can use with string. Equal exit. Then let's print exit the program, goodbye. And there is another statement that you should know. It's called break. Break statement is used to exit loops permanently. It works only with loops. We use it to terminate the loop based on the condition. In this case, we are trying to tell Python if user types exit, we should run our if statement and we should break the while loop. Okay, let's run the program. We can see the printed count. Then we can see our user input. It's asking us to enter exit to end. Let's enter no. Nothing happened because our if statement was false, and now we're in the second iteration. Let's type n couple of times. As you can see, the count is still rising. Now let's type exit. And once we typed exit, our if statement was true, and we got exiting the program printed, and our while loop was ended. I hope you understood how to use the while loop. And if you were wondering why I used the lower method, let me show you why. I will run the program again. Let's type s couple of times. And now let's type exit in uppercase. And as you can see, we still have exited the while loop because we used the lower method. It's a really good way of using the lower method because sometimes people can make the first letter uppercase, or in this case, all of them uppercase. In our if statement, we are making sure that all of the user inputs are turned to lowercase, then they are checked to the string that we are looking for. Just to recap, the while loop in Python is like a repeating task. It keeps doing something over and over again as long as a certain condition is true. The loop checks the condition before each round. If the condition becomes false, the loop stops. You can use break to exit the loop early if needed. Okay, let's talk about lists. In Python, we use lists whenever we want to represent a list of objects, like a list of numbers or a list of names. Let me show you. So I'm going to create a variable called names and set it to list of names. In Python, we use square brackets to represent the list. And now I can add one or more objects to the list, or we can even leave it empty and add the data later. But I'm going to add a bunch of names now, like Luna, Emma, Carl, Noah, and I think it should be enough. Before we move on, I want you to pay attention that I'm separating each element with a comma. Okay, now let's print our names. And let's take a look. It comes out exactly as we declared it. Now we can get individual elements from our list also. Let's say we want to print only the first name in our list. Here we type our square brackets and we type 0. You might ask why 0, shouldn't it be 1? But Python uses zero-based indexing because it's easier for computers to manage and work with memory. So basically Python counts from 0 and goes up. So in this case, when we are trying to select the first name, we type index 0. And when we run the program, we get Luna. Okay, now a question. What do you think this will return? If we use the 0 to indicate the first element, we use -1 to indicate the last element. And when we run it, we get Noah. And we even can do something like this. This represents the second element from the end of our list. So it should return Carl. Okay, now let's say we made a mistake in our original list. It shouldn't be Luna, it should be some other name. To reset it, we type names 0 equals, and let's say our new name should be Bob. And when we run it, we can see that the lists have been updated. We can also select a range of values. For example, let's say we're only interested in the first two names. So in here we have to type two indexes, the starting index and the ending index, separated by colon. So our starting index should be 0. And our ending index should be 0, 1, 2. Now Python should return all the elements from starting index to the end index, but excluding the end index. So it's going to return only the element index 0 and 1. Let's take a look, and here are only the first two names. Okay, now let's say we want to add new names to our list. So to add new names, we are going to use append. We type names.append, we open the parentheses, and inside of the parentheses we are going to add our new name. Let's add Ava, and when we use append, it always adds the new data to the end of the list. Let's run the program and see what happened. And as you can see, now we have Ava at the end of our list. Okay, there is another useful method that we can use with list. It's called pop. I think you can guess how pop works. We type names.pop, we open the parentheses, and inside of the parentheses we can type the index of the element that we want to remove from our list. So I'm going to remove Luna from my list, and when I run it I can see that now the first element is Emma. So this is how we use list in Python. When writing a Python program, there are times that you want to iterate over a list and access each item inside of that list individually. Let me show you. Let's declare a variable called numbers equal list, and let's add numbers from 1 to 5 to that list. Okay, now let's imagine that we want to access each and every item in that list individually. To do that, we are going to use for loop. Let's start by typing for. Then we have to declare a new variable. It's common practice to use item or just the letter I. This variable item will be representing the individual item that we have selected from our list. Then type in numbers and don't forget the colon at the end. So this is what we call for loop. With this for loop we can iterate over all the items in our numbers list. In each iteration, this item variable will be holding only one value. So in the first iteration, or we can say loop, the item variable will be equal to 1. Then in the second loop, it will be equal to 2, then to 3, and so on. Now let's print item and run our program. We see each number on a new line. Okay, let's add a little bit to our for loop to make it easier to understand how it works. First, let's declare a new variable called new numbers, and it's going to be equal to list, and we are going to leave the list empty. Then inside of our for loop block, let's type new numbers dot append, and we want to append the item variable. Let's append it and let's type +1. So now let's say in first iteration, our variable item will be equal 1 + 1. And we will append that number to our new numbers list. So let's type on a new line print new number. And pay attention that this print statement is not indented anymore, indicating that it's not inside of our for loop block, so it will not be printed every single iteration. And when we run our program, we see that our item was printed every iteration, and every iteration we have appended item plus 1 to our new numbers list. And then when our for loop was ended, we have printed the new numbers list. Okay, I want you to remember that we use for loops when we have specific list of things that we want to go through. It helps us to go over each item in the list one by one. On the other hand, we use while loop when we want to keep doing something until a certain condition is no longer true. It's like saying keep doing this as long as something is the way that I want it. Okay, now let's talk about dictionaries. In Python, we use dictionaries in situations where we want to store information that comes as key-value pairs. So let me show you an example of a dictionary. Okay, I'm going to declare a variable called customers equal to curly braces. Within this curly braces, we can define our dictionary. Okay, now we can add one or more key-value pairs. Let's start by adding our first key, ID, and the value, let's put it as 101. Then we add comma to add another key value pair. So let's add another key value pair. Let's put the key as name and the value as Alice Johnson. Then let's add phone with the random phone number. Let's do 551234. And I want to use an example with the boolean. So let's do the key premium member and the value true. I think it's good enough for our customer dictionary. Of course, we can add address, email address, and all that kind of fun stuff, but it would have taken a very long time. Okay, it's all fun and nice that we have our customer dictionary, but how do we use it? So let's try and retrieve our customer's ID value. Let's type print customers, then we use the square brackets and we specify the key, in this case ID, and let's run it. And as you can see, we have our value back 101. Now let's try to retrieve our customer's name, print customer name, and here we have it, Alice Jones. Okay, now let's do the phone. But this time let's type phone with uppercase P. And when I try to run it, I get an error stating that key error phone. Basically, Python is trying to tell us that the phone with the uppercase P doesn't exist in our dictionary. Now let's fix it back to lowercase and let's run it. And here we have our phone number. And let's do the last one, premium member. Let's run it and we have true. Okay, this was dictionaries. Pretty straightforward. You have keys and you have values. You can access the values using the keys. So now let me show you how we can combine the list with the dictionary. First, let's create a variable called customers equal to square brackets. Then I press enter and you can see that I'm indented once. Then I type the curly brackets indicating my dictionary. And let's copy our keys and values from our customer. And let's paste it inside of the dictionary. And pay attention that now it's indented twice. If you remember, we use top to indent our line of code. At the end of this dictionary, next to our curly brace, type comma. Okay, now let's add our second dictionary in our customers list. And we want to open another curly braces. And let's copy and paste one more time. But this time let's change our ID to 102. Let's change the name to Bob Smith. And the phone number. And let's do premium member false. Okay, now we have our customers list with two dictionaries inside. But this is not fun. This is not interesting. Let's use something else that we learned. I think you already know what we are going to use. We are going to use for loop to loop through our customers list. Type for customer in customers and don't forget the colon. Let's copy the print statements from the top and let's put it inside of our for loop. And let's delete all of this so it doesn't confuse us. Before we run our program, let me add another print statement. Okay, now let's run it and see what happens. Okay, and here we have it. Both of our customers' dictionaries have been printed. Okay, I hope at this point you can understand how everything that we are learning can be combined together to create a functional program. Okay, now let's talk about another important structure in Python called tuple. Tuple is really similar to lists. We use tuple to store a list of items, but unlike the list, we cannot modify the items, we cannot add new items, and we cannot remove any existing items from the tuple. Basically, tuples are immutable. We cannot mutate or change them. So let me show you how do we define tuple. First, let's create a variable called numbers. Let's make this to a list and let's put 1, 2, 3 inside of it. So this is the list that we have already learned. So we use square brackets to define a list and we use parentheses to define a tuple, just like this. Now our number variable is a tuple. Now if I do something like this, you can see that we don't have the append or the insert methods. So now we cannot add new items to this tuple, and also we don't have the remove, clear and pop methods. We cannot remove any of these items. We only have these two methods, the count and the index. But similar to list, we can get individual items using the square brackets. So we can do something like this. So now we will get the first item from our tuple and let's print it in our terminal. There you go, we have 1 returned, our first item in our tuple. Now let me show you what happens if we try to update our tuple. Let's type numbers, square bracket 0, and let's update our first index to, let's say, equal to 15. And let's run the program, and here we have our error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. So we cannot mutate or change tuple, they are immutable. To be honest, for the most of the time you're going to be using list. But tuple is also useful. If you want to create a list of items and make sure it doesn't get accidentally modified or deleted, then it's better to use tuple. Okay, now let's talk about function. So function is container for a few lines of code that perform a specific task. We already have used Python's pre-built functions like print or the input function. Each of these functions performs a specific task. So when we build a large and complex program, we should break our code into small reusable pieces, which we call functions. So let's write a simple and small function for greeting people. Let's start by typing our greeting. I'm going to type welcome back Carl, bring the print statement down, and on the first line let's type def. This is the keyword reserved by Python. And this is short for define. When Python interpreter sees this keyword, it knows that we are trying to define a function. Next we need to give our function a name. Let's call it greet. Please remember that when we are giving names to our functions, we want to give them meaningful and descriptive names. And we follow our name with open parentheses. And at the end we put colon, indicating that we are opening a new block of code. And let's not forget and bring our print statement inside of the function block of code. Okay, now our greet function is complete. Let's type another print statement to make it visually easy to understand what's going on. Let's print welcome back. And actually let's remove just the welcome back part from our function and let's run our program. Okay, we got just the welcome back part, but why? Even though that we have created our greet function, it doesn't mean that it's going to call itself automatically. To call our greet function, we type greet with open and close parentheses. And when we run our program this time, we can see welcome back, and on a new line we have Carl. This means that we have successfully called our greet function. And from this point on, we can call this function as many times as we want inside of our code. Okay, now let's delete all of this. Now I'm going to show you how to pass information to your function. Let's define our grid one more time and let's open the parentheses. Inside of this parentheses, we define the name of the parameter. I'm going to name the parameter name. And once again, let's type the print statement inside of our function. Welcome back. This time let's do plus name. Okay, now when we call our function, we can provide with any parameter that we want. And when we run our function, it will print welcome back and the parameter that we have given. Let me show you how it's done. Let's type greet. We open the parentheses, but this time let's pass string Carl. And when we run it, we can see that our greet function took our parameter and added to our print statement, and we got back welcome back Carl. I want you to understand that functions allows us to create group of instructions, give it a name, and call it whenever we need it in the future. Now we have reached our first project. In this project, we are creating a simple ATM machine simulator. The goal of this project is to use what we have learned about programming to create a simple simulator. Our aim is to build basic but working simulator of an ATM machine. This project will help us practice and understand key Python programming concepts. Now I'm going to give you your objectives. I have created step-by-step instructions how you can create your own ATM machine. Okay, let's start with objective 1. Welcome message. The program starts by greeting the user, setting the stage for the ATM simulation. Objective 2. Initialize account balance. The balance variable is set to 1000, representing the user's starting account balance. Okay, now objective 3. Set up and verify PIN. The user PIN variable holds the correct PIN 1234. The user is prompted to enter the PIN. The entered PIN is compared to user PIN. If the PIN is incorrect, the program notifies the user and sets ATM on to false to prevent entering the main loop. If the PIN is correct, ATM on is set to true, allowing access to the ATM functionalities. Basically, you have to create the user PIN, and then you have to ask the user to enter the PIN when they start the program. And if the PIN is correct, you should allow access to the main loop. And if it's wrong, you should deny the access. Okay, let's move on to objective number 4. Main ATM operation loop. A while loop is used, controlled by the ATM on flag. Inside the loop, the main menu is displayed, with options to check balance, deposit money, withdraw money, or exit. Then we have user's choice handling. The user's choice is captured through input. If else statements handle the different choices. Balance inquiry. If the user chooses to check the balance, it's displayed using the balance variable. For objective 7, we have deposit money. The user can deposit money, which is added to the balance. The deposit amount and the updated balance are displayed. Objective 8, withdraw money. For withdrawals, the program checks if the balance is sufficient. If so, the requested amount is subtracted from balance, and the withdrawal is confirmed. If the balance is insufficient, a warning message is shown. Now exiting the program. The user can choose to exit the ATM. On exiting, a goodbye message is shown and ATM is set to false, ending the loop and the program. And for the last objective, we have invalid choice handling. If the user enters an option that's not on the menu, the program prompts them to try again. Okay, that's all of the objectives. My suggestion is that you should read all of these objectives one more time, paint the picture of your program in your mind, and then you should start from objective 1 and go up. In each objective, I'm trying to give you as much of information as I possibly can. So if you get stuck in some point, try reading over all of the objectives one more time, and I'm pretty sure that you should find the solution. I have another small hint for you. This is what the final product should look like. So by just looking at this image, you can get an idea what you should do to create your own ATM simulator. Okay, and I'm finally done explaining the project. You can pause the video now and start the project. And when you will come back, we will write the code together. But before you start the project, I want to encourage you to experiment with this project. The final result shouldn't look exactly like this. You can create your own ATM machine. Try to come up with good ideas and good executions. Good luck and see you back soon. Alright, I hope all of you were successful and you're here just to check your work. So let's start with objective 1 and 2. Welcome message and initialize account balance. Let's start with printing welcome to the simple ATM simulator. Then let's declare a variable called balance equal to 1000. So this was objectives 1 and 2. Let's move on to objective 3. Let's look what we have to do over here. Set up and verify PIN. The user PIN variable holds the correct PIN, 1234. And we have user is prompted to enter the PIN. Okay, let's start with this too. First, let's create user PIN variable equal to string 1234. Then let's create variable called entered PIN equals input. And let's ask our user, please enter your PIN. So you might think why user input equals to string? Why not int? In this case, it's simpler to use string because as you remember, our input function always returns string. That's why it's just easier to compare a string with a string. And by doing this, we're simply eliminating a step of converting the input string to an integer. Okay, now let's look what we have to do next. The entered PIN is compared to user PIN. If the PIN is incorrect, the program notifies the user and sets ATM1 to false to prevent entering the main loop. If the PIN is correct, ATM1 is set to true, allowing access to the ATM functionalities. Okay, I think we can handle this. Let's start by typing if entered PIN is not equal user PIN. And if it's not equal, we print invalid PIN, exiting. And after that, we have to create ATM1 variable equals to false. And then let's do else, meaning the PIN was correct. We create our variable ATM1 one more time equals to true. So in this part, we're obviously checking if the PIN is correct. And we are creating ATM1 variable. We are going to use this variable to determine if we are allowing our program to enter the while loop. Okay, let's check the objective number 4. Main ATM operation loop. A while loop is used, controlled by the ATM1 flag. Inside the loop, the main menu is displayed with options to check balance, deposit money, withdraw money, or exit. Okay, now we are heading to the fun stuff. Let's declare a while loop. Let's type while, and we type the variable name ATM1. So as you remember, our while loop will run when our ATM1 variable is equal to true. So when the user is entering the password, and if it's correct, we get ATM1 equals to true, and it triggers our while loop to run. Okay, let's print our main menu. Let's print main menu. Print 1, check balance. 2, deposit money. 3, withdraw money. And 4, exit. Okay, let's look at our objective 5, user choice handling. The user choice is captured through input. If else statement handles the different choices. Okay, let's start by declaring choice equals input, enter your choice. Over here, we're asking the user to make a decision what he wants to do in our main menu. So from going to my menu, let's do if choice equals 1, print your current balance, plus string function and balance. Okay, let's check back our objectives. So we did the main menu loop. We did the beginning of the objective 5. And we did objective 6. Now let's look at objective 7 and 8. Deposit money. The user can deposit money which is added to the balance. Okay, the deposit amount and updated balance are displayed. And for withdraw money, for withdrawal the program checks if the balance is sufficient. If so, the request amount is subtracted from balance and the withdrawal is confirmed. If the balance is insufficient, a warning message is shown. Okay, let's jump back to Python. Let's do the deposit money. Let's type elif, choice equals to 2. Then let's do amount equals float function. Inside of our float, let's put the input. Enter the amount of deposit. So why are we using float? Let's say our user wants to take out $10.50. With the whole number, he can't type 50 cents. With the floating number, we can take out the exact number that our user wants. Okay, then let's type balance plus equals amount. So this is a shorter version of typing balance equals balance plus amount. So instead of typing balance twice, we type plus equals amount. Then let's print the deposit amount. Let's do something like this. Let's do nice. Let's print $sign plus string amount plus deposit successfully. Okay, now let's handle the withdrawal. Let's type elif choice equals to 3. Same thing, amount equals to float, input, enter the amount of withdrawal. Then we have to check if we have that amount in our balance. Let's type if amount is bigger than balance. We should print insufficient balance. Let's do else, meaning we have the amount in our balance. Let's do balance minus equal amount. So same thing as balance plus equal amount. Basically, we are saying balance equals balance minus amount. And once again, let's print it nicely. At the end of the day, we're ATM machine. Print $sign plus string amount plus withdrawal successful. Okay, let's check back the objectives. So we did 7, 8, and we have 2 more left. We have exiting the program. The user can choose to exit the ATM. On exiting, a goodbye message is shown and the ATM 1 is set to false, ending the loop and the program. Then we have invalid choice handling. If the user enters an option that's not on the menu, the program prompts them to try again. Okay, this should be easy. Let's do another elif choice equals to 4. Let's print thank you for using the ATM, goodbye. And let's set our ATM 1 to false. So once this loop ends, our while loop ends with it, because we are setting the ATM 1 variable to false. Okay, now let's handle the invalid inputs. Let's do else. Print invalid choice, please try again. So basically, if our users type anything besides 1, 2, 3, 4, we are going to end up in our else statement and we're just going to print invalid choice, and the while loop will start again and again and again until our user makes a correct choice. Okay, this all looks good. Now let's run our program. Okay, we're greeted with welcome message and it's asking us to enter our PIN. Let's enter 1, 2, 3, 4. And here we have our menu. Let's test our program to make sure that everything works correctly. Let's start with typing 1. And we can see your balance is 1000 and we are back in the menu. So far it's working the way it's supposed to work. Now let's check the deposit. Let's type 2. Okay, enter amount to deposit. Let's do 5.25. Deposit successful, and we're back in the main menu. Let's check the balance to see if we have successfully added the deposit. Let's type 1 and we can see that we have 1,525. Okay, now let's do withdraw money. Let's type 3. Now let's type the withdrawal amount. Let's do 111.53. And we have our message withdrawal successful. Once again, let's check. And we have our balance 893. And now let's check the exit. Let's type 4. And our program is done. But let's run it again. Let's type the pin 123. And let's type 8. Let's see what happens if we make a wrong input. And nothing happened. We have our message invalid choice. Please try again. Let's do one more time and see what happens. Let's do 666. Again, invalid choice. Let's do now letters. And once again, invalid choice. Okay, now let's type 4. Let's exit and let's check our pin. Let's run it again and let's type 5543, for example. And we have invalid pin exiting and our program have ended. Okay, this was it for this project. I hope your code was similar to mine or even better. Just keep in mind that this code that I just wrote is not the best way that we can create this program. We are writing the code this way because it's easier for the beginners to visually see what they're writing, to see the if statements, elif statement. Of course, we could have used the function and all that kind of fun stuff. So if you did write your code the other way, it doesn't matter. As long as it does what it's supposed to do, you were successful. So good job with this project and see you back soon. Thank you for your time. In behalf of CGEV.